All right, we are live. What's up, Callye?
Hey, what's up, brother?
So, welcome to Sales Legends, ADHD Sales Legends. This is our first show that we're doing around people with ADHD, entrepreneurship, and sales, and how it's affected, both Callye and I. And what's interesting is, I've been taking medicine since I was 8, but I'm just now, over the last few months, discovering what ADHD really is. So, what do you tell us a little bit about your history of this?
Yeah, so I always had trouble. Yeah, I was always getting in trouble in school, anyways. But the way that I found to focus for me in class, and this infuriated every single teacher I ever had, was I would draw, I would doodle. That was the only way I could keep from making a big mess, talking to somebody, distracting somebody. I did just fine on all the tests, but they always thought, okay, this guy's not paying attention. But that was my way of background processing. And that'll bring us into lessons that other tips and tricks that I've learned that work for me. They might not work for you. I'm not a therapist. Corey's not, we're not therapists, but we are people that have built strategies and personal development around things that have made us successful, if not directly, indirectly. It's allowed us to have the platform of success, to operate in a world where not everybody has ADHD. Now, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and Corey almost solely works as a sales coach for entrepreneurs. And it just so happens that only 4% of the population roughly has ADHD. But I swear to God, every entrepreneur that we talk to, they're a walking, talking diagnosis for ADHD. Now, statistically, the percentage is more around 40, 50%. But it just seems like if you're into personal development and you're on that journey, like we are, about how to get better every single day, and you're an entrepreneur, you're in the right place.
You're definitely the right place. So the topic, Callye, let's just dive into the topic. And this is vitally important to me. As you know, I'm writing a book around ADHD, and I've been doing a lot of interviews. And what I found is that coaches, and we know this, we're in this space to a degree, right? We both coach and consult, and then we do other things. But how do you actually helped me with this exact thing, right? When you and I started talking, I was charging $5,000 a person. Now I charge $20,000 a person. So what's the difference?
Yeah, so this is a very deep topic to go into, and it's one of those things where you think that it's industry specific, you think that it's really targeted, but it's not. When we break down the structure of it, a lot of it has to do with stuff that you are awesome at teaching people: confidence, just the basics of believing in yourself and understanding what you are actually offering. But what we found was, and to dial it back for everybody, Corey and I putting out content almost every day for over a year. And we talk every day. And I've seen this evolution of, hey, who's this sales guy? Let me have him on my podcast. Let's do a podcast swap. Shout out to having a platform to share your message and share your value, which we will get into. But it's like, who's the sales guy? What does he sell? What does he help sell? And then working with you starting really in August, just in depth every single day on your offer and what you're doing. And the issue is that sales, like everybody that's in here and everybody who's a coach, you could serve a constellation of people, a universe of people. And it's tempting because we're empathic, right? We want to help people to then go and chase all those particular opportunities. And we saw that with you. It's like, oh, you got massive value for a roofer. And I'd say, okay, Corey, let's go after roofers then. And you say, I don't really like roofing. Well, you're not a roofer. That's not your passion in life. Like what? And if people look at my framework, which I do physical products, right? So I'm not going to coach you to coach or anything like that. That's not really my thing. But for physical products, I'm very customer first, what we call customer first mindset. And we pick a community of people. And I say, would you be willing to serve this person? Not your idea, not what you know. Would you be willing to serve this person for 10 years? That's the best niche in the world. You can be a millionaire or better if you know that group of people that you're going to serve. So we went through roofers, we went through plumbers, we went through a bunch of different things, right?
Right.
And what was interesting is it's not that you couldn't do it, because you did it, right? Electrician, plumber, you did trades, you did you did all kinds of stuff, gym owners, you did we went through a lot. But when you taste and try, and that's what I want people to do, you taste and try it and you say, okay, well, that's good, but it's not me. And if you want to know what you're worth, you got to know who you're worth to. Because this is something my dad taught me, because I collect all kinds of stuff. I used to be hardcore into collecting. I'd say, hey, this thing's worth this much money. He'd say, look, boy, it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. And if you know that about your product, you know that about coaching, you know that, well, a plumber might have a $500 problem, but an ADHD business owner who happens to be a plumber has a life problem. You can save that person's life, their headache, their marriage. You can 10x their business, 100x their life, or you can teach them how to send text messages. And that's how you get paid much more. But more importantly, Corey, how does it feel to work with people that are like you and that you understand?
It's, it's the reason I can't hardly put it into words is because it is, here's the thing. I didn't even know you were ADHD this whole time, and you and I worked together so well. And if I'd have clicked on that, if I'd have thought about that or realized that a year ago, this might have been different, but it doesn't matter. Here's the deal. You have to go through the process sometimes in the evolution of trying different things. And that doesn't mean you got every shiny object. Now, look, I'm guilty as hell of that. Why? Because I didn't understand that was part of attention deficit disorder, that we jump to thing to thing to thing. But here's the thing. When you find that one thing like this, and you talk to people and they understand you, you understand them, the success rate is astronomically better because the communication is better. Like, here's an example, Callye, you know this. I may be in the middle of a conversation and forget what I'm saying, but because you're ADHD, you're like, oh yeah, you're saying this. Or you might say, oh yeah, I forgot too. But either way, the point is that we get back to it and we understand, and it's not frustrating. Otherwise, if you're talking to somebody that maybe is not ADHD and you have these qualities, it could be frustrating for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in everything, because there is that level of emotional intelligence and understanding that it's like, yeah, that happens. And maybe other people aren't going to understand that specific situation, but if they're not your tribe, they're not your community, who cares, right? Who cares? And what I want people to get out of this is that, one, you're probably chasing your tail because you care, you feel like you care a lot. So you're trying to help out a lot of people. And the reality of this is that you haven't focused your care. So the analogy that I give, and I gave to Corey, is if I have a hammer and I am just tapping all over the United States, I'm never going to build a railroad. But if I tap on one spike at a time, I can change the world. And that's the difference, is that we really just need to focus on the problem at hand of what we're going to do. And we say we're going to hit this one issue in our business or with our customer's business or what we're doing over and over until it's done, until that spike is driven. We don't have to worry about it anymore. And for sure, we're going to be focusing on systems and processes in upcoming episodes. But the point is that a lot of people, they have a hammer and everything looks like a nail. And they're going around, they're saying, I can coach anybody. I'm a life coach. Everybody's alive, right? So here we go. And when we talk to them from Clubhouse, or we've talked to them from Facebook, they're charging an absurdly low amount of money. They're not able to even capture customers. And then when I tell them what I do and say, and we talk through how I organize how many direct clients that I have, how many consulting clients that I have, it's hard for them to wrap their head around. It's like what Corey was saying, is that he was picking up a major business at $5,000 a month and running them through different systems and processes for their business. But when we shifted it to really focus and on the outcomes, it was based on the value that he was going to provide. So me as a consultant, if I were to charge for hours and say, hey, I'm a CAD person, right? I can draw your product for you, that's how I started. No problem with that. But that's roughly a $45 an hour charge. Now, if I can say, I'll go into your business and I'll cut your costs in half, or I'll make it so with the same amount of employees, you can 2 or 10x your product business through systems, processes, outsourcing, and working with my resources. Well, it's worth millions of dollars. So when I give you a proposal and say, roughly people pay me $10,000 or $20,000 a month, but I don't charge per hour or per month. It's to get a result. And the faster I can achieve that result, the more people are willing to pay for it. So it's a totally different thing, because I know the objective. And so if you want to know what you do, ADHD Sales Legends, the reason it's so much better than Sales Legends is that sales is everything. But when we talk about communication, it's going to be like, for ADHD, okay, well, Corey just talked about forgetting what you're saying. Well, is there a way to practice or prompt or prepare that's going to help you mitigate that problem? For sure, there is. I sent Corey a text right before this, so it's up on my screen, so I remember what the hell we're talking about. It's just little things like that.
Well, and you're right. It's small hacks, right? It's small things like, and this is so, and you're probably gonna laugh, but it's so simple and so silly, but so effective. Don't put. Let's see. What? How does it go? Don't put it down. Put it away. What does that mean? That, for me, that means that I lay stuff down. Like, I'll take my creamer out of the refrigerator and I'll sit it down somewhere after I use it and leave it. And my wife's like, dude,
now you don't have any creamer.
Now you don't have any creamer. And if I just would have not set it down and I would put it away, I wouldn't have had that issue. Now, can you imagine how that would work in your life?
Yeah, and the important part of this is that in the context of, if we were just saying, hey, we have a sales group, I mean, that's good information, but it's not great information. But in the context of the customer that Corey is focused on and our group is focused on, now that's like, dude, it's so impactful. It's life-changing. It's something that will help your business, but it'll help your life. It's super powerful. It's something that we've learned. It's coming from our experience. And we also put ourselves in alignment for the maximum value, right? So we're solving a 100x problem. So as Corey comes in, and then he becomes not for everybody, but for the people that he's for, he's the guy. He's the expert. He's the category king. He's the go-to guy. He's ADHD king, right? ADHDking.com. I don't know what else other domains that you had, but this, my point is that this just clicks, and something will click for you where you know that you can be a category of one. In the case of Corey, I think just category king, because it seems like there's a lot of people that are almost there, or they're doing something and they're doing good work, but we invite them into the group. We want to show them how to really, do what we've been beating ourselves up for years and really honed in on now. But the piece of this is that if you want to get paid what you're worth, you have to be worth something. And I know that sounds harsh, but if you're serving everybody, you're basically not worth anything.
That's right. And Callye, here's the other thing. Like, you should not feel bad for providing information or knowledge that you've acquired if somebody else doesn't have that knowledge, right? If Tom Brady doesn't know how to run a play, he's got a coach to show him how to run the play, right? So I don't know if that actually made sense. The point is that when you're dialed in and you have knowledge, it doesn't even matter what industry it is. If I have more knowledge than Callye has about a thing, about water, it doesn't matter what, and he needs that knowledge, and he should pay me for the knowledge, right? Yeah, that's how it works.
You getting on my case about that all the time, because I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, everybody knows that, and you're like, nobody knows that, dude. You're just like, because I guarantee a lot of ADHD people, right? You get into a topic and you become kind of a self-anointed expert. I say an autodidact, somebody that self-learns. So you dive in deep and you learn everything about meditation, right? Or in both of our cases, we go on an NLP binge, right? You learn everything about NLP. And then you kind of just set it aside and say, oh, that's in my repertoire. That's in my own personal catalog of information. But then you move on. You just think, well, other people understand about this. And no, they don't. That's like 0.1% of people in the US know anything about that, right? So by even knowing what it is, you might be an expert. But Corey's always on my case about this because I'm like, oh yeah, you do this. And we're talking to a marketer and I show a marketer how to run their ads or structure their offers better. And they're like, oh, well, what marketing company do you run? I'm like, dude, I don't run a marketing company. He's like, man, come on, man. You should be, this. I don't consider myself like when we first started creating content, Corey, like I didn't consider myself a salesperson. I still really don't, but I do sell a lot of stuff, right? That's the thing. At the end of the day, like I pitch a lot and I do sell things. I'm not, here to humble brag about stupid things that I do, but with us working together, you're like, oh, that's called this technique. And you use that. And like, I think everybody is a little bit like that. You don't understand what you actually know. And you're thinking that because you're not a salesperson, that you shouldn't be charging, you shouldn't, that shouldn't be of any value, or like everybody knows that, right? Because I knew it and I just picked it up for a decade of experience. It's like, dude, no, not everybody actually knows that. You taught me that.
Yeah, but you said something vitally important there that we should probably hone in on, which is you said, well, I still don't consider myself a salesperson. Well, let's dive into that for a second, because this is probably one of the number one issues that I deal with. And because people in different trades, or even doctors, as you know, you're going to start working with a bunch of doctors in Canada. Well, you think, well, how does a sales guy help people in the medical field? Well, it's simple. You got to go through a sales process, no matter what you're selling. And if you're providing information, education for an individual to better their life, then you're selling them on whatever it is you have. If you believe they need what you have, then you have to sell it to them. And it shouldn't feel dirty. It shouldn't feel like you're a slime ball, because guess what? I'm not a slime ball, and I know how to sell anything, right? And you know how to sell anything. If you've got a kid and you've ever had to convince them of something, which you have, if you have a kid, you're a salesperson. You're a negotiator. Your kid's a negotiator. Guarantee it.
Oh man, yeah, that's a perfect example, because the doctor saying, yeah, well, we don't really have salespeople. They're doing millions of dollars, right? Somebody's selling something, first of all. But then we dive in and say, well, what does Corey know? Well, you did run a med spa, so like you do know a little bit about selling similar services, right? But like, oh, what does a sales guy know about this? Well, what's your follow-up process look like? Nothing. Okay, well, just on that alone, you could probably add a lot of revenue to their business, hopefully, 10, 20%, because they're literally doing nothing for follow-up. So that's just a process that's universal to anybody that's listening. I don't care if you're selling cars, you're selling coats. If you're selling roofs, you're selling whatever, it's the same. And industry largely doesn't matter. We talked about that earlier today. I think that's a technician's point of view, not an expert's point of view on things. But if you want to know what you're worth, you really need to understand the impact that you're offering somebody and where you're an expert in it. And you'll see that situation happening over and over again, right? You will consider yourself not a salesperson, and you'll think like, why am I worth X dollars? But if you can use that empathic sense that you have, a lot of people with ADHD have that extra sensitivity or ability to step into somebody else's shoes. I think that that's just because I am easily very frustrated, right? So the only way to tamp that down is to understand, like, okay, the person that you're dealing with, what do they think about this situation? Put myself in their, their perspective, so I don't just like absolutely lose it on them. But
because they probably don't know, right? They probably
yeah,
don't know that they don't know the frustration that you and I or anybody else with ADHD goes through when we're trying to explain something to somebody. And it's not that they're stupid, it's not that we're stupid. It's just we have a let's just look at it like this. Like our brains are like a race car with bicycle brakes, right? And so when we explain stuff, sometimes we might skip a word, or sometimes we explain it at a much higher level than the person can understand it because we think at a higher level. Not just you and I, but most people with ADHD. When you dial in what it is you know and what you're great at, dude, like Callye, let's just name some of the people. If you know off the top of your head, I'm trying to remember. I think there's some massively successful people that are ADHD. Like in history, there's a whole list of people. Like I think Michelangelo, for example, I believe was one. The dude that cut his ear off, he was one.
Vincent Van Gogh. But yeah, I mean, you see a lot of those traits with people, and there's this tendency that we've seen talking to coaches, talking to entrepreneurs with ADHD, that they are conflating, they're conjoining the symptoms or issues with ADHD with them not being good at sales. Right. And they're saying, oh, I'm not good because of these things. So what we want to do with this group is we want to separate those out and then show you the tools, show you the systems that we use or that our friends who are experts use, the people that are the therapists and other coaches that we talk to, that they use to turn those deficits into superpowers, so you can understand that you have massive value and those things are part of another system which needs to add value to your expertise, right? Because what you're doing is you're saying, because I'm distracted and I'm choosing a bunch of people and because I really feel for them, I'm going to take 1 million calls a day for free. This is a really common thing that we've seen is people are, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing this and doing this. And I'm like, your Instagram has no traffic right now, just can it. 90% of what you're doing has no value for you right now, can it. The 10%, make that into 60%, get some personal time back, stop taking free calls from people, make some money, hire a VA, they'll post on Instagram for you, right? Yep. Stop doing all these things that absolutely don't help you at all. Start doing more of what helps you. Stop taking people that will never pay you. And this is a little aside, I'll try not to tangent this too much, but we all want to help people. And I put out a whole podcast, Corey puts out a whole podcast just to share our thoughts and to help people for free. So somebody wants to hop on, if you're a member of one of our entrepreneurship groups, one of these groups, generally I'll set aside a couple of slots a week to just talk to somebody for 30 minutes. But for the most part, I just say, hey, I have over 100 hours of content. It's one of the top podcasts in the world for product. Just go listen to a couple episodes, put it out there. Because if I spend 2 hours on a Zoom with those people, I'm not doing the work for people that are going to pay me, that have paid me, that trust me. I'm disrespecting and I'm cheating them out of what I told them that they would do. And I think a lot of people with ADHD, they think that I'm going to serve or looks interesting. And then they realize like, oh, this deadline is passed. Oh, I don't have enough time. I was too optimistic with my time. So like I didn't do the thing that I said I was going to do because I did this other thing that I felt like was important that I needed to do. And when you start creating healthy boundaries and time blocking and looking at it and say, Corey and I, we're going to do a lot of business together. We do a lot of business together. I have that time. That time is very important to me. I'm going to make sure that I'm available. Joe Blow from Facebook, who messaged me wants to tell me about their invention. That's a miss for me, right? What I'm going to say is, hey, I have an episode on every question that you could possibly ever ask. There's already an episode on that, and it's going to take you to a level where then your problem is going to be something that we'll solve on the phone. But people have built 6-figure, 7-figure brands just listening to that podcast, just listen to the show. You come back. And this is the thing, is that you need to understand your value, and you need to make healthy boundaries. I think that's really a challenge.
It absolutely is. Lots of times I know, because I've experienced this just recently. When you start talking to somebody that's just like you, and you're vibing with them, it's pretty easy to let that time go away, because you may, like me, I never really had a conversation like this around this topic, so I never got the opportunity to really understand it until recently. Mm-hmm. But the time can get away from you, so you really do need to protect your time when it comes to anything that you're doing in business or in your personal life. You've got to be really intentional, because we have squirrel brain. We can go all over the place, and if we're not careful, that rabbit hole of different things could lead you at the end of the day to not getting anything done productive.
Yep. I know that's something I've been getting on your case about. And really, that's just an extension of me getting on my case about it, because I'm constantly squeezing that tube of toothpaste, of my time, and saying, how can I get the most value out of this little hour block that I have, this little half an hour block that I have? How can I set aside time to do nothing, right? Just do nothing, so I can have some downtime. And I think that is going to be really powerful. I want to just move on to one last topic. And I think that this is giving a really good overview of the types of content and the types of tools that we'll be talking about on each of these. And to be more impactful, I want to be able to dive in to, like, hey, let's just talk about time blocking, right? And really bore people with this, and then they'll walk away, and then it'll help them and have massive impact. And they'll say, hey, that was worth my half an hour on a Saturday watching this. But the last thing about this is I just want to talk about consistency, right? So we talked about focusing on a customer and the value, the actual thing that you're offering. We talked about kind of disrespecting your time, or not really understanding the value that you already have, your experience. And then this is the other thing, is just being consistent. So if you try to do too much, to the outward appearance, it looks inconsistent, right? If you're doing random lives all the time, you're posting in weird times, like you're putting out 2 shows and then no shows and then quitting a show, you feel like you're working really hard, but you're not. Because going back to the customer niche, is because that's one of the main things people ask me, what's the hot niche? What's the hottest thing that I should go after? And they hate my answer, because my answer is, pick a group of people that you would serve for 10 years. And they say, well, I thought you would say it's crypto. Like, I thought you'd say drones, man. I thought you'd say that, drones is the hot market. I said, no. Pick a group of people that you would belong to, that you would imagine that you would be on stage with the thought leaders of that community, and that they would show up to listen to you speak. That if you had to work for them for free and they were your friends, that you'd be willing to help. Right? And somebody that once you go talk to 5 or 10 people, you should be able to post on your Facebook and say, hey, I want to talk to you. They should be able to jump on a Zoom with you. And after you're done talking to them, you feel like, hey, that was a good conversation. You don't feel like, I never want to talk to somebody like this ever again. That's really important. But the 10 years is the key, because if you can't see that long view, the day-to-day, like marketing and communications and clarity, the follow-up, it's pretty much impossible, right? Because here's the thing, Corey's going to show you a system of how to do the outreach, how to talk to people, how to close them, how to do the follow-up. I mean, that's what Sales CEO is all about. That's what his coaching program is all about. But my point is those are mechanics. He's an expert. He can tell you how to sell. But if you don't want to sell to the same group for 10 years, you're never going to have experience. You're not going to know the nuance. And so when we teach you question-based frameworks, or we teach you Sandler or Closer or any of those things, we teach you how to use outbound VAs, teach you how to build a CRM so you get automated leads while you're asleep, teach you any of those things. If you don't consistently show up, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. Yeah. So we're going to show you all those things, but I'm just telling you from this point of view is I've done pretty much the same thing for 20 years. I've just done it a little bit more. And that one kernel is like sales. It touches so many things. So like when I say, hey, I help people with their product business. Well, that could mean a whole lot of things, and it has meant a lot of things. But I'm able to grow into that, just like Corey. I mean, do you feel the same way about sales?
Absolutely. And
Would you next week decide that you want to not be in sales? You want to be a massage therapist or something?
No, not at this point.
Then you're in the right niche.
Yeah, and it feels right. And look, you'll know when you get there, because the conversations are going to be very different. They're going to feel like it's just a normal conversation. And here's the other part to that. Even if it feels like a normal conversation and it's easy to you, that doesn't mean that it's easy for the other person. So therefore, there's your value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vitally important.
Yeah. Once you find it, you'll know, because the money will come. People will be asking to hire you. They'll seek you out. They'll tell their friends about it, but you'll feel good about actually fulfilling that service. You'll feel good about putting the content out. You'll feel good about closing people because it's another person that you get to help.
So, Callye, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So, should people feel bad about wanting to sell a product or service to somebody that needs it and wants it?
No. And this is a really common question. It's one of the earliest questions that people ask and are answered in, say, a personal development program. You have to flip it on its head, is that when you really target in what value and impact, I call it transformational change. Other people call it different things, but I help people get from A state to B state. So I help them on a journey to become what they want to become, the kind of person that they want. And we use the business as a vehicle to achieve that. Right. So I rarely even talk about, hey, right now we're going to talk about product. I talk about that's what I'm offering. So I know that my value is in transformational change, them becoming the type of business owner, them having the kind of impact, having the kind of money to support their family, having the kind of money to pay their employees a living wage. I put what I have to offer in the context of the life that I'm helping somebody achieve, not in, well, you have 1 hour of a Zoom with me and it's $500, because that's stupid. But I understand, because you've been duped by corporate America. You've been duped by the school system to think that you're worth a number for your time, that it's an equitable exchange where you have to put a number. But then when you look at what, say, my sales figures are, and you break it down and say there's about 2,000 hours a year, and you divide that number by the other number, I don't charge that per hour. That would be insane. That's thousands and thousands of dollars an hour. That doesn't make sense. I have a whole business engine behind me. That's not how things work. The way it works is you have to understand what you're doing. Some of the projects that I work on, that company turns it into $1 billion division by the product that we develop or I invent or they buy from me. So I know that when I charge them a considerable amount for that consulting, that it's worth it, because it's going into that $1 billion opportunity. But I don't have to break it down by the hours. You don't have to do that either. And you don't have to look for $1 billion business opportunities, but you need to look for somebody that needs you. And when you can connect with that and understand that you can reduce that frustration, you can increase the amount of money that they make, you can help them do something, right? Corey's in there and he's like, well, I helped somebody 5x their business. So how much should I charge? Well, how much is 5x their business, Corey? Oh, it's an extra $4 million. Well, how much did you charge? $5,000 a month. Okay, well, we're gonna change how that works for sure, because that's not right. Because yeah.
Well, the other thing,
the point is, you shouldn't feel bad. You make somebody $4 million, you charged them like $30,000 for 6 months of coaching. That's a pretty good deal, right?
That's right. But let me ask you something. Now,
yeah.
Let's take that $30,000 example that you just gave, and let's say that it was a $300,000 charge for the same result, and the business owner is still going to be absolutely excited about investing $300,000 to make $4 million. You get it?
Yeah, and if you don't think that you can make that offer, we're going to show you in subsequent episodes on subsequent Saturdays on how to structure that offer. We can give you great books. If you don't believe that this is possible, you can. I think it's still $1. $100 million offers, Alex Hormozi. You could just skip it and watch his YouTube channel, and he really is breaking a lot down. He blew up in 2021, really because he's selling his business and was able to start making content. 2022, I think he'll be one of the top influencers in business, certainly in the English speaking world. But his book's $1, and he'll tell you how to make. He calls them home run offers. I call them magnetic offers. Whatever you want. We did a show with another person on how to structure proposals, consulting agreements, which is more what I do than the coaching. The coaching's something that's always evolving for me, but it is possible. You just have to understand your value. So people are like, how do I charge what I'm worth? And I'm like, well, what do you help people achieve? They're like, these 20 things. Like, so nothing. You're worth nothing. Let's pick one of those things. Could you just do this 100 times? They're like, yeah. So it should cost less. I'm like, no. Now you're an expert in this thing, and now your life is simple. It's replicable, and everybody still needs this thing. So let's do that. Let's charge 10 times as much. Get it. They can get it done in half the time. So we'll structure through some of those offers. But man, you can't feel bad about helping somebody achieve the identity and the life that they want to be. You have to feel amazing about it. If you feel bad about it, you're probably just serving the wrong person.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing. Like, if I can help somebody with that has ADHD just fix like their sales process, what is that worth? Well, you may not be able to tie that to an exact number because the number could be infinite after that, right? It's
for the rest of their life. The rest of their life.
Right. Yeah. So why not charge them, say, well, you're going to make X number of dollars every year for the next 20 years, so I'm going to charge you 20X. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that, but guess what? You could do something pretty close to that. I mean, in consulting, when we price out a consulting job, we have to figure out how much are they going to make 5 or 10X what we're charging for their profit, right? Their ROI on their investment. And the answer is, if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be pitching, right? Because that's what people want, at least 5X.
Yeah. If I can't do 5 or 10X with somebody, it's probably not a good fit for the value, because I want, and I'll be honest, I do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of content, but almost all of my sales come from referrals. Almost all of them.
Yes,
and God. Yeah, they come from referrals. The person that's referred them is already like, hey, you might think this guy's expensive, but he's the only person that can do this and this and this. And I don't have to be worried about telling them a price. I'm not really worried at this point. I can tell you in the past that I would be like, oh man, should I charge $2,500 to develop this person's product? It's, and then
he's a referral, right? So
and I look back at that and say, well, that was good. I got tons of experience. Developed like 50 products a year for a long time, and I was developing them for $2,500, $3,500, $5,000. It's kind of untenable. You can't really run a business like that. but developed hundreds of products from it. Right now, you're probably doing something similar as you're thinking, okay, well, how much time is this going to take me? It's going to take me 50 hours and I charge $100 an hour. So that's $5,000. That seems pretty good. And if I can do it faster, maybe I'll give them a discount, or maybe I'll just make a little bit of profit because I can do it a little faster. And in reality, that's just nonsense, because me personally, I found out, oh, well, the product development company, the fancy company down the street, they're charging $350,000. And I was like, I guess I didn't understand what I was worth, because I didn't talk to other people. We had kind of an edge because I have a manufacturing company. We get to make it forever. So in the long run, we'd make way more money than the other company. But the point is that didn't really understand what I was doing for somebody. And you're probably with that as well. You got to look and say, well, how much is this actually going to cost? What is this going to do for somebody? And there's going to be a lot of people who, for me, it might be a casual inventor or an influencer that thinks like, hey, I want to make like t-shirts, or I want to make some junk thing. I want to make some kooky thing. That's great. They're not for me. They're not, I can't do that. So I focus in and I say, I work with people like this and I help them do this to get to here. And then I can charge because I fill that bucket of value and I say, I'm going to provide them everything that helps them achieve this transformation. This is worth this much to them. So if we go from $100,000 a year to $100,000 months, right, it's worth about $900 to $1 million, right? 900,000 to $1 million. So if I charge you $10,000 to do that, it's a hell of a deal. Probably kind of like a scam deal. But in the past, I would be like, $10,000 is too much. Too much for that. That's only going to take me 3 weeks or 4 weeks to do. And what I learned is like, not everybody can do that in 3 or 4 weeks. And what Corey gets on me about is like, hey man, you can't just share how you do your entire marketing system with somebody. It's taken you 5 years to figure out how to sell to big companies. You got to charge something for it. But like everybody who's listening to this, dude, it's like that. You're like this too, Corey, right? And man, I'm so excited for this group. We're gonna have a hell of a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I want to tell everybody that we're gonna put this out, in on a podcast platform. And also, if you have questions about this, you can drop comments below and ask them. And guess what? We'll cover these topics for you, because you've got two people here that have an enormous amount of knowledge in these areas. Like I can't think of anybody. I don't know anybody else in this space that has the experience that we have. Nobody has the experience that we have. I have, and you have. It's unique.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe they exist, but they're not putting out content, right? Maybe they exist, but they don't have a program or experience of getting this. I call it a second order skill, getting results for other people. So Corey not only has worked with himself and now is on that next evolution of working with himself, but he's helped other people do it. And so there's not like that many people that are on that second order skill and are putting out content and have a free community, things like that. So if you're listening to the podcast, we have a free Facebook community, ADHD Sales Legends. We'll put a link in the show notes of how to join. If you're listening to us, we go live on Facebook every single Saturday. Today is our kickoff. This is our rebrand from Sales Legends to ADHD Sales Legends. Super excited. But this is the kind of content that we're going to put out. It's just conversational, and we're going to pick apart all the things, all that ADHD brain dump that you just listened to. We're going to pick out a little thing, and we'll talk about just one little system, one problem that you experience every day, and the tools that we've used to help mitigate that, to help overcome it, turn it into a superpower. Corey, I'm going to give people one call to action.
Let's do it.
And then I want you to close this out, right? Here's the thing. This is turned from a social group or a content group into a mission-based group. This is ADHD Sales Legend. We're putting this out there not because we need to, or we need more friends, or we need more fans. What we need is more impact. We are putting this out to help you and to help your friends. So do us a favor, meet us halfway, and share this with your friends, because I guarantee you know somebody who's not at the level that they want to be, because they get distracted, they get frustrated, they don't understand how to make those deficits into a superpower because they have ADHD. Maybe they're into sales, maybe they're a coach, maybe they run a medical practice and they don't realize that they're a salesperson. Share this episode or share the group with them. Bring them in. They can watch the replays in our vault, in our Facebook group. They can contact us, because the point of this show isn't for us to waste half an hour on a Saturday. It's to create a community where we can all grow together. So that's just my call to action. And that's it from me. Corey, close this out. Close this out, brother.
Yep. So, guys, we really appreciate you tuning in today. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place. You'll be able to see the replays, as Callye said. You guys have a great day and be legendary.